Welcome everybody. I was going to say hello boys and girls, but we're going to say hello girls and boys. For those of you who don't know, it's an inside joke. Go back a few videos, you might understand. All right. I've been looking forward to doing this video for quite a while because I've been waiting for this thing for quite a long time, and finally it arrived a couple of weeks ago. It's the Gryphon Diablo 333 integrated amp. We did an uncrating, not uncrating video. Mike will link the video. In fact, I think he's finishing up the video right now, and it should go live shortly. So by the time you watch this video, it should be live, and you can see the link in the description below. I won't go into all the tech details and so on. It's in the uncrating video. Just a couple of things. It's rated at 333 watts per channel into 8 ohms, doubled into 4 ohms, and I think about 1100 watts into 2 ohms. So lots and lots and lots of power. I sincerely doubt you'll need more than that. The amplifier is integrated amplifier, the power amplifier section. The output transistors are in fact the same ones that are found in the top of the line Apex amplifier, which is quite amazing. Again, if you would like to see my impression of the Apex, Mike will put the link in the description below. Price is $24,900 US, quite a big jump from the previous model called the Diablo 300. And of course, I forgot to write down what the price was, but those of you who know, put it in the comments below. This is going to be my first impressions, and I'm still going to call it the good, bad, and ugly just because I like to. Why not? So let's start with the good. Physical. This is going to be funny because I came in just now and I asked Mike while he was setting up this room, do you hear a ring? So let me explain what I mean. First of all, fit and finish is top level. I mean top level. It's really well built, very solidly put together. You don't see horrible gaps, just really well done. You can tell that the engineering department sweated the details to get everything right. Touchscreen is very reactive. Contrast is easily readable, so no issues. Even for a blind person or almost blind like me, sitting where I'm sitting, I could easily see the volume numbers and so on. Just no issues whatsoever. Binding posts, wonderful. Same binding posts as you find in the Apex, so big, color-coded, so black and red, and it even has a rubber insert so that when you're turning the binding post, you get a nice grip. So big oversized, so you can easily tighten, no problem whatsoever. Okay, sound. Right off the bat, as soon as we plugged it in, I was impressed. Oftentimes, you will hear a product sort of change its character as it goes from brand new to fully broken in, and sometimes it's quite dramatic. In this case, not so much. Right off the bat, is very good, and it just kept getting better in small degrees to the point where I thought, this is, I could easily be very happy if the sound stayed the same as it did when it was brand new. There's no issue whatsoever. I connected it to the Sasha when it first came in and left it there until we had to switch over to the Watt Puppy, and then in order to break in the Wilson Watt Puppy, I left it on the Diablo 333 as well, and the same sonic characteristics were evident all the way through. So let's start with bass. Very well controlled, exceptional in fact in many ways in terms of power and control and just grip. Every bit as good as, for example, a Hagel or an old series Krell. Of course, I'm going by memory now, so maybe the old Krells might have been better, but just top notch, certainly nothing to complain about. No sense of lack of detail or clarity. It's just really, really, really good. Top notch. And in fact, as it broke in, it got even a little bit better, but again, not a dramatic difference. I wrote down here, there was no drama, huge change as it broke in. Strong resemblance to the Apex Commander combination. In other words, dynamic, powerful, extended. And that's saying a lot because the Commander Apex combination is about 150,000 US, maybe a bit more. I mean, this thing is 25,000 US, so a fraction of the cost. Not cheap, but a fraction. And yet it easily acquitted itself well. One of these days, I'm going to bring the Diablo 333 into the other room where the Apex and Commander are, and then do a shootout and just see sibling rivalry, as we call it. Mid-range, very smooth, defined, detailed, no harshness or forwardness. Sometimes, like for example, if you listen to the AccuFace, I love the AccuFace, but it's definitely a little bit on the forward side. I like it, but it's definitely more forward than, say, neutral, whereas this is definitely more neutral in terms of the soundstage space that it occupies. No harshness, as I mentioned. Highs are extended and airy, not harsh or bright, and there's definitely no grain. Now, this is one area that I remember as a difference between the original Diablo 300 and the 333. I found that the original Diablo 300 was a little bit on the dull side, a little bit on the dark side. No, I shouldn't say dull, it wasn't dull. It just didn't sound as open, as airy, as effervescent as the 333. The 333 definitely sounded more open and airy and more relaxed. Also interesting is that with the Diablo 300, there were times that I thought, despite the fact that it was a little bit on the darker side, it could be a little bit grainy. Now, let me explain what I mean. I had previously bought two versions of the Diablo 300. This was going back a couple, 3 years ago, when I was toying very seriously with the idea of being a Gryphon dealer. And I didn't want to become a dealer without having intimate experience with the current products. And so I bought a couple of used ones, and I also bought some of the amplifiers, and then I sent them over to my friend's house who lives 10 minutes away. I've previously referenced him. I know his system really well because I've helped him acquire most of his equipment, and I've known him for over 25 years. And so I'll go by fairly regularly, at least once every 2 weeks or so, and then spend some time listening to his stuff. And part of the reason I do that also is that if I'm trying to decide if I want to carry something, I'm old school. If a distributor sends me a product, I somehow feel obligated. And if I decide I don't want to carry the product, I feel bad, just so I'd rather buy the product, or unless I know the distributor really well and he understands where I'm coming from and he says explicitly, look, no obligation. If you don't like it, don't carry it. We're friends. It's not going to hurt me. Then I might do so, but otherwise I'll just bite the bullet and buy it. Anyway, so I'll send all these things over to my friend's house, and then I'll go over and I'll spend hours and hours and hours listening, and both of us will listen. And so I had two Diablo 300s. And the last one I listened to, this is going back about a year ago now, also included the built-in DAC. And so I listened to it with the DAC, and maybe the slight graininess that I heard and the slight dullness may have been due to the built-in DAC, although I don't recall that the first sample that I bought without the DAC sounded different. In other words, they both had that slight darkness, and they both had, when I played it fairly loud, a slight amount of grain. Not at all with the 333. Now, I'm not saying this because I own the 333 here, because I also own the other two 300s. Just telling you what I heard. Soundstage, really nice, wide and well defined. You could easily hear the different instruments within the stage, and the imaging in this particular case is, again, I want to say top notch. At a later date, we're going to do a comparison, the boys and I, and maybe we can reel in one of our clients and have him do like what Paul's been doing as well. And maybe do a comparison shootout with all the different top-notch integrated amps that we have. The Eagle H600, we've got the Daniel Hertz Maria, we have the D'Agostino, and of course now we have the Diablo 333, and of course the AccuFace. How could I forget the AccuFace E5000? We'll do oh my God, how many? That's 5 integrated amps. That'll be an insane shootout.
I think we need to do an actual shootout with multiple
Yeah, that'll be an insane shootout. Anyway, we'll do one. Maybe we'll do it in multiple parts, but I'm looking forward to that. But just based on initial impressions alone, this thing's got to be near the very top. And then how it ends up will be primarily based on taste. What do you like? But yeah, so I was mentioning soundstage and imaging, spectacular. Depth is actually even better than the soundstage, and that's saying a lot. The soundstage is really good. The depth is even better. I find that the front wall behind the speakers just completely melt away, and I'm just like a tunnel. So they're fantastic. I'll give you a couple of musical samples. I've been, for the last little while, listening almost exclusively to classical music, and I went back to a standby, Charles Munch with the Boston Symphony Orchestra doing Saint-Saëns Symphony No. 3, and some people call it the organ. And when the organ comes in, oh my God, the depth, the organ is like all the way back, but majestic. It's not like all the way back and it's disappeared. It's all the way back, but big. About a year ago, I want to say, I went to visit Wilson Audio again, and as part of their dealer training, they take one day and they bring you to the help me, the church that in Utah. What's Utah's famous for religion-wise? Mormons, yes, the Mormon church. And so you're brought there, and part of the reason you're brought there is because the church uses Wilson audio speakers as part of their recording monitors. And you can see this huge organ built into this church. And while we were there, the organist was there tuning the church, rehearsing, and so on. So we got to hear the magnificence of this ginormous organ. And I'm standing there absolutely in awe, because the deep bass when the guy plays oh my God, it's like this wave of power just going right through you, even at relatively low levels. And then when he opened it up, because we encouraged him, open it, oh my God, it's like unbelievable. Nothing I've ever heard in audio comes close. Now, audio, big systems will give you that deep bass and the effortless bass, but it doesn't move the kind of air that this big, huge organ does, and that's what you're missing. Anyway, in the case of this particular recording, you could not only hear but visualize the magnificence of that organ. It was just absolutely stunning. I was blown away by that. Another piece of music I'm going to play for you, in fact, was the entire, talk about it, is the entire album. The last time I listened to Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms, the album, the entire album, must have been decades ago. And the reason, I've played different cuts every so often, just because I'll play once in a while and so on. But I got so sick of that album because back in the, was it late 80s, early 90s, when the album first came out, every audiophile, music lover / would come in and want to play that album, and rightfully so. It's a great album. But because I played it so much, I got so sick of it. It's just like the Eagles, Hotel California. It's the same thing. And so I stopped playing it, to my own detriment, because when I played this album again, after so many decades of not listening to, oh my God, I'd forgotten how magnificent this album is. Every cut is wonderful, and every cut is so well recorded. There are little things in the music that just drew me in. I'd forgotten how lovely and how great the musicians are. I mean, Mark Knopfler at his peak, just absolutely a wonderful musician. You listen to Brothers in Arms. He plays a 1983 Les Paul, which he recently sold in an auction. I mean, he's playing, and I'm playing air guitar. I've closed my eyes, and I'm just lost in the music. There's no higher praise that I can give a product that it draws me in. The system draws me into the music so much so that I completely forget that I'm listening to a system. That's how engaging, that's how good the Diablo 333 is. I don't know how else to tell you. If you don't know what I mean, get yourself a different system or get out of the passion, because it's obviously not moving you. This thing moved me. Okay, let's do the bad. Start with the physical. The binding posts, as I said earlier, are big and oversized and wonderful to grip. However, that rubber insert, the little rubber O-ring that they put in, I have a fear, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe somebody from the factory will correct me on this. I have a fear that over time, that rubber will dry out and break. Now, it's probably no big deal. You can get another insert and just stick it on. But I have products in the store with binding posts with the same kind of configuration with the rubber O-rings, and over time they just break. And if you like in the store, we're constantly changing products in and out, changing speaker wires. If you use it a lot, it might just break from torsional use. So that's one thing. Again, I'm speculating, I could be wrong. I don't like the binding post locations. It's located a little bit too low at the back of the panel, so that if you're trying to put your speaker wires from the bottom in as opposed to top down, you have to make sure that your spades are the angle type. If you have the regular flat type, it may, especially the tall space that you might have, it might be a little bit too close to the floor. Something to be aware of. I wish it was taller, maybe middle of the back panel would have been better. Let's see, I'm nitpicking, as you can tell. So this is the part I was joking about just now when I began this video. I came in as I was writing the script and my notes, and I ran my fingers along the heatsink, and I said to Mike, "Do you hear this?" And Mike, of course, is distracted and goes, "Hear what?" "No." And I'm running my fingers now. The reason I do that is that there are products on the market where mechanically they're well made, but they are not well damped. So as an example, Macintosh. So when I showed Mike, I said, look, I ran my finger through along the heat sinks. It's fairly well damped. It rings a little bit, but nothing significant. But when you do that on a Macintosh, on the heatsink, it goes ding all the way through, and it just keeps ringing. And then when you do the same thing with the D'Agostino heatsink, it's just dull. You know, I've done that, for example, with Boulder amplifiers, and it's the same thing. It's just very dull, very well damped. Does it mean anything? No, not really, perhaps, but it's just something, you know, again, nitpicking, what the hell. Hot. This thing gets hot. Now, maybe not finger burning hot, but it's warm. I'm sitting right in front of it. I can feel the heat coming off it. I don't know why it's so hot. Maybe the heat sinks are just adequate, or maybe there's a very significant high bias. All I know is that it gets hot. So do not put anything on top of it. It's not a good idea. If you have to put it into a cabinet, make sure the cabinet is really well ventilated. Remote control buttons are all the same. Yeah, it's true. Again, I'm nitpicking. If you look at the remote control, first of all, the remote control enclosure is beautifully made. There's a lot of little details. I went into that in the Uncrating. You can watch it. But I don't like the fact that all the buttons are all the same. And so if you're pressing, you don't really know which button you're pressing until you get to know it really well. And also, I don't like the fact that it's not backlit. I wish it was backlit. No HDMI inputs for those who want to connect their Apple TV or their TV to the Diablo 333. Now, this could be an issue. I know, for example, this morning I was just at a client's house. He's very significantly downsizing, went from a huge house to a much smaller condo, but he doesn't want to give up the quality that he's used to. And so we're looking at an integrated amplifier, and that integrated amp not only plays music, but also has to play back the sound from the TV. And because it doesn't have HDMI ARC, it'll work. We'll find a way to make it work. It's just not as elegant a solution, perhaps. And then last but not least, be aware that the AC connector on the back of the amp is a 20 amp connector. It's not 15 amps. So if you buy the amp thinking that, okay, I've got a really good audiophile power cable I want to use, make sure it's a 20 amp female connector and not a 15 amp, otherwise it won't work. Sonically, nothing yet. Again, first impressions, but my sense is if this is what it is and doesn't get any better or whatever it is, I'm totally happy with it. It is a fantastic amplifier. I just literally nothing to complain about. As I mentioned earlier, we will do a shootout with all of our other top-of-the-line integrated amps, and then we'll report back. All right, ugly. As I said, amp gets hot. I already mentioned it in the bad, but I'm going to mention it again. It gets hot. And it's a lot of money. 25,000 US dollars. Okay, 24.9. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Not everybody can afford it. But, and again, I'm nitpicking. So if I were to think of what I would buy as separates or what you could buy from Gryphon, if I'm right, and this is a very good resemblance to the Commander Apex combination at 160, 170,000 US dollars, but at 25, then this becomes a relative bargain. And not to mention the fact that it's so well built, and Gryphons generally have a very good reputation of being reliable. So anyway, that's my wrap up. If you haven't heard it, try to hear it and then see what you think. If you've heard it, I'd love to see your comments. Write them below in the comments below. Tell me what you think. If you have a 300 and you disagree with my finding about it being a bit dark and slightly grainy, please tell me. Tell me I'm deaf. I don't care. I'd like to hear your comments. If you have a 300, tell me what you think. And for those of you who have enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, turn on notification, all those kinds of things. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.